What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ho the Husband Podcast. I'm your host, Terry Duran. Today, I got my co-host, Jay Babo, on the line with me. What's going on, bro?
Not much, man. Looking forward to getting into this tonight here. Obviously we have SD missing here, but he'll definitely be back with us next week. Definitely will be missing for this week. But want to quickly remind you, you can catch us on TikTok as well as subscribe to us on YouTube at Hold As a Podcast. And for those with businesses interested in promos or shout outs, you can shoot us a DM on IG at Hold As a Podcast, as well as emails at holdasapodcast@gmail.com. All right, T.
I want to give a shout out to my man, Brother Soul Productions, for keeping us lights with our background music. I want to remind everybody to continue supporting the podcast through our Cash App and our PayPal. And I'd like to remind everybody that you can catch the audio playback of the podcast every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the core94.com. Now, today's episode is titled Wishful Thinking. We're going to be having a conversation about realistic realistic long-term dating expectations. Just about the mindset and the actions that are taking place in 2025. But y'all know how we do around here, man. We like to discuss stuff that we've seen trending or that have gone viral. So we got two real interesting videos to discuss this week. This first video is from a show favorite, Kendra G. It's a clip of her talking about men being invisible to women. Let's take a look.
Men are everywhere. I got a challenge for every woman watching. Go outside, and today I want you to count how many men, period, you run into for one full day. I bet you if you're outside in the world, it would be more than 100. Now, every man, he might have been an Uber driver, he might have been a doorman, he might have been the gardener, he might have been the Amazon delivery guy, and a woman will say, yeah, I ran across 100 men, but none of them were their option. These men were virtually invisible because she has her eye on one guy, right? Now, here's the harsh reality. What if you're invisible to that one guy?
Now, that's a very harsh reality check. But I love the fact that it's coming from a woman and it's told in a way where women can't, criticize her tone or have some kind of clapback for it, because that's the reality of it. Women that are average or below average feel that they should have the best options when it comes to men. And we see how there's such a negative reaction. Anytime men state their preferences in women, what they dislike, like or dislike, there's always this animosity and this hostile response towards it. Even though women preach all day about what they don't want, what they won't tolerate, who they won't date, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think her bringing it home to, well, you ignored over 100 guys every single day. And that one guy that you have in your brain is going to want you and is going to marry you and all that. What if you ain't even on his radar? That's the reality that a lot of these women are going to find themselves in.
Exactly, man. I mean, it's interesting that it comes from Kendra G because obviously, she has a dating show that she does, and these are the same women that come on here and say, hey, they want this guy that's 6'4", makes the 250,000, has no kids, and just wants to take care of her. And here she is coming in with 3 kids from 3 previous relationships, right? Now it's funny because when Kendra G started, she's like, "Oh, kind of big one," and she doesn't really say this. She just sometimes she'll chime in and say, "Hey, is that real?"
She lets them lay it out. She lets them lay it out.
Yeah. So she's like, "Okay, well, hopefully you can find that man." But for her to say, and she knows a lot of these women that are coming on there are being just delusional. Like I said, the reality is that one guy that you want, that guy has to want you.
Yeah, and unfortunately for a lot of those women, they can get sex from that man. That one guy that they got they heart set on, they can get sex and attention from that man relatively easy. But it's trying to get a long-term commitment. It's getting that man to actually want them long-term that they're going to struggle with. And I don't know exactly what the reason is. That's kind of what we'll be getting into later on today with today's topic. But as a man, I for me, I being the person that's been married 21 years, It's always hard for me to even imagine this type of stuff because being outside is kind of predicated on creating environments for men and women to meet and flirt with each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the reason that you get dressed the way you get dressed to go to the club, the cologne, the this, the that. You know what I'm saying? Women putting on but with the lack of the dance floor and the dancing and the physical nature that you used to be able to vibe with back in the day, man, we discussed it recently. Sitting in a section on your phone ain't really making yourself available. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because there's no interaction going on, right? You're on your phone, or you're probably just interacting with the folks that you already know that's in that section with you, right?
Right.
So there's not, interaction going on between you like you did back in the day, right? A lot of times you're going in. What you did the work was on the dance floor, right? You got on, you danced with
Or
somebody.
not. That's where you got to have the engagement, but
Yeah.
shooting your shot and having a conversation. I was always strategic about where I stood and located inside the club. You know what I'm saying? Like the pathway between the dance floor and the ladies' restroom, somewhere along that route, or between the dance floor and the bar. Depending on where how the club is laid out, I want to be in a spot where I can see all the women. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
Man, you just dropped a nugget there, man. Because most folks don't even. Yeah, I'm serious. Most folks, hell, I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even think of that. Like most folks ain't even think like that. Like, hey,
really?
Chick draft for that. No, I've never heard anybody say that.
So, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a nerd, man, but I always just thought of it like marketing. You know, so like street signs. You want to be on the spot where the most cars are gonna pass by. And so it's the same kind of concept. The bar is where most people are gonna walk to the bar. You know what I'm saying? Like, but standing by the bar, you're gonna end up buying more drinks. You know what I'm saying? But all women are gonna go to the ladies' room at one point or another. So that way, that's where you can kind of do your pre-scouting and you get an idea of who you are actually interested in, and you can be seen. You know what I'm saying? Like if you looking good, you can be seen, you can tell who noticed you. You know what I mean? Like, so all those type of cues that's information that I'm getting or I'm gathering.
Absolutely. But it's crazy with this, right? These women have these, like she said, these women have these preferences, these guys that they want, right? No one has a problem, right? And if a guy has preferences, like that one guy that she told that they want, he has his own preference, he has preferences of his own, they would get on the guy for having this, like, for example, there's this video going around that went viral from Pop the Plume where the young man said, hey, it was preference of hair, and he went in on that guy, on that young man. It's just like he didn't. And I watched the episode. I'm like, he didn't say anything. He wasn't disrespectful about it. He just said, hey, this is what he likes. And
right. I mean, men aren't allowed to have preferences according to how women respond. You know what I mean? Because any group of women that is excluded or don't fit what he likes is going change the conversation and change. How you gonna say that when your mama's black? You know what I'm saying? Like it's always kind of like you wrong for not wanting what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like so.
Look, at the end of the day, look, we all have our preferences. There's nothing wrong. Now I think some aren't as realistic as they should be, but nonetheless, I think you're entitled to have those preferences. But like I said, at the end of the day, whatever you have a preference for, whatever you like has to like you. That's what it comes out on both sides.
Yeah, and I think just guys are forced to have to figure that out in real time and in the real world. Most guys are not just randomly getting sexual interest from women. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that you have to,
unless you're a celebrity,
generate and put yourself in position to get, especially if you plan on getting it consistently from the attractive women. And that's why when we talk about it, we talk about it as if it's a skill. You know what I mean? A skill is something that you can get better with repetition and practice. And dating, from a male perspective, is no different. Being able to, the dude that appears smooth and having a conversation and making the women laugh, he didn't just magically learn how to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that he was doing in middle school and in high school, at the lunch table and this and that and that. in groups. Like you have to. I mean, obviously,
Listen,
maybe I'm different because I was always trying to
I
get
think
in the
you,
group with the cute
I
chick,
think
and
you are.
I
I think you are on that. I think you are on that sense. But I think most of the time men have to figure out in some way, shape, or fashion, right? Because society will let you know real quick. The women are going to let you know real quick. Hey, you're not tall enough. You don't look good enough. You're too big, too small, too whatever. They let you know real quick, right? Whereas the women, not so much. Society like kind of allows them to have, like you said, they have endless, access to sex, right? Even
and
ones we consider
sex
below
and
average.
things to enhance their beauty and shortcuts to get rid of the things that they don't like. So women have a lot of options that can make themselves more desirable, but the problem is the things that make a man want to marry a woman and be with her long term have to do with how she thinks and operates, and ultimately how she views and treats men. And that's where most of them go wrong because of the things that they expect, and we'll get into that a little bit later. When they have these delusional expectations of what a man's supposed to bring and provide and all that, it causes them to view the normal average man that is on their level as if he is beneath her, or if there's something wrong with them. You know what I mean? And so I don't know what can be done to fix it, but I applaud Kendra G for at least doing her part to try to correct some of the delusion. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right, now this next video is a video I came across of music executive Ray Daniels, where he's just kind of venting and expressing the male perspective of how women are never satisfied with the things men do. Let's take a look.
In my 40s, I know so many women that got divorced. When they tell me how they got divorced, Kodak, I swear to God, they all for the same reason.
Why?
I wanted more for my life and he wasn't working hard enough. What's happening is that women are seeing other women and what they have saying, I want that. And the I want that becomes, who's going to buy that? My daddy. And when I'm gonna find one. So what happens is that now we're looking, I love women, bro. But I first of all, I left the streets for a while because I'm just like, they became predictable. You meet a chick, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, as soon as she knows what you're doing, she asking you, telling you how I run this business. Like, goddamn, you don't even ask me how my day been.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, so we're in the same age range of what we're talking about, but we're the era that predated social media. So we got to see how things have shifted and changed, and how the expectations have gotten out of control. Because I think about it. Back in our age in the late '90s, movie Soul Food. One of the things that stood out to me is one scene where one of the guys, Samuel, in the movie, he's a dude, good job, like put nice car, dress fly, all that, and he was talking about he made it a flex. I make $80,000. You know what I'm saying? Like that one scene where they got in a fight. But making 80K in the 90s, bro, you was balling out. You was in a fly ride. You was living in a nice neighborhood. You was able to sustain a family. And things have gotten so expensive now that's 80,000, man. You struggling to get by. You know what I'm saying? Like so
What city you live in?
That part of it is not really taken into account, I don't think, by women, because most guys, just with the way the economy is set up, he can't afford to pay all his bills and then spoil you and provide you with the lifestyle Cardi B. You know what I mean? Like that's just crazy to me.
No, he's absolutely right here. As far as it's not all women, but there's a lot of women. It's just never enough, right? And I wish SD was here because he posted a clip. I think he did this a few years ago with Yanti, where he was talking to a young lady and he was asking her why did she divorce her husband, and basically it was kind of like this. She wasn't happy she didn't really get what she wanted, and she divorced him because of that. Right. And it's just indicative of how a lot of these women think, right? They're not getting what they want, and in a relationship, things supposed to be, you're supposed to be all in. I think both need to be all in if it's gonna last long term, if it's gonna be sustainable relationship, marriage here. I think both gotta be all in. It can't just be one trying to make you happy. You should be trying to make each other happy, in my opinion. And whatever happiness is, because that's very relative here.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when you talking about a serious relationship or a marriage, it's not about what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, part of being a husband or being a wife is you're committed to doing things you don't want to do. You committed to using your resources and your finances on stuff you didn't necessarily want to use them on. But you're doing it for the greater good of the family and out of the love that you have for them. Because ultimately, that's what love is. Love allows you to put up with stuff that you wouldn't put up with from people you don't love. And it'll make you do things for people that you wouldn't do for people that you don't love. And so doing things that erode that love or cause that love to go away is ultimately kind of my goal. I'm trying to prevent women from doing that. Because once you do that, once you remove the love that caused him to overlook your flaws and the things he don't like about you, then the relationship is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, once he check out on that level, you've lost him. And there are a lot of women that lose solid dudes that are quality husbands, quality fathers, because they were chasing something that didn't really exist, wasn't really an option. Somebody that they were just qualified to get sex from. Go ahead.
And it's crazy you said that, right? And here's the bigger picture for that, right? When you divorce over something, I guess, rather trivial here, if we really get down to nitty gritty. And think about what you do. Okay, you get divorced. You break up. If you had kids, you're breaking up a household there. Something that probably otherwise could have been worked out.
I mean, well, the main problem is divorce has been monetized by society, in the court system. So women having children, getting with a good husband, a quality guy that has a good career or makes a decent amount of money, all of those things benefit women. If you look up how most women gain their wealth, most wealth transferred to women come through divorce, not business, not success stories. There's very few women that have made themselves wealthy on their own. Majority of it is they were married to an NFL player, and while he was married, he put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a boutique and a salon and a nail shop for them and a wig shop. And so now they making hundreds of thousands of dollars because they got their body done, and they're like, so right. A lot of these women get put on by men, even if they end up making millions and all that on their own. So it's the unrealistic things that they expect from a man. I can see why somebody, even a man that got the money, would check out on dating like that. Like, you know what, I'm gonna really chill.
Yeah, I think with this is just no winners here, right? Women divorce, I guess on the women's side, to a sense, if they were married to somebody that had the financial means, I guess there's something because they get half of the assets.
Yeah, I mean, what's it?
Child support.
Portia Williams from Real Housewives or whatever, that she was married to Cordell Stewart, the NFL player, divorced him, got millions out of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, then I don't watch reality shows, but I know she married some African dude that had been married to another woman on the show, but he was worth millions. And so now it came out to where I think it says she's getting she had a baby with him, I believe, and now she has to pay like $40,000 a month child support. So again, it's hard to be sympathetic for these guys when you date these reality show chicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what you getting what you signing up for. They're gorgeous. Like, the benefit, the desire to smash them is gonna be there. But when you make the mistake of wifing up a woman that is,
they're cute. You said they're cute. Hey, maybe even fun in bed. But the thing is, you should not make any sort of permanent decision. Getting married, having children.
The having children part is where a lot of dudes slip up. Majority of the time, that's accidental. You know what I mean? Like, so there obviously there are ways that guys can be more careful and can, I've said, limit the exposure of having an unwanted baby. We talk about, I guess my thoughts on those type of things. Remember when we were talking about why when I was single, I was more into oral sex than
Yeah,
just smashing all the time? That's one of the reasons why. So like
gotcha.
you having a reputation for being an eater or being able to snatch a woman's soul, you can do that several times without having pregnancy scares and all that. So
True. Yeah.
those type of decisions were things that I did to kind of limit the possibility of me having an unwanted or unexpected kid. Even though I knew the risk, obviously, I had those kind of heart to heart conversations with my mom, like, you gonna have to, if you make the baby, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Even if you don't want to be with a woman.
So did she basically just say, "Hey, listen, don't get a woman pregnant that you don't plan on being with long term"?
I mean, she realized that she wasn't a man, so she kind of
Gotcha.
just gave me her perspective on it.
Okay.
Like what the expectation is. If you're gonna be out here having sex, you know what I'm saying? Like, you obviously know that could potentially lead to this. And in the case that it does, that means you're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. So I was always aware of the potential of being a father. And it was always something that I looked forward to. I always felt like I was preparing myself to be a father. I never thought I would be married or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up, we talk about that too. I'm shocked that I'm married. I never thought I could be with a chick long term when I was growing up. So that part does shock me. But I always knew that I would be able to provide for my child.
Man, we might have to do a whole. I said, man, we might have to do a whole topic on that alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think most guys, well, I guess I can't say most guys, but guys that are having a lot of successful women, like, you think that that's what you're going to be doing your whole life, and then when that's one of your, Marcus Graham and Boomerang, like when that's your goal, like, man, I want to be able to have an office, have a fly crib, have this, be able to smash multiple. Yeah, like when you have that kind of goal, you don't realize that's I ain't gonna say not unrealistic. Lots of guys live that lifestyle, but that kind of contradicts wanting to have a family and a family structure. You know what I mean?
No, I see where you come from on that, and it's crazy because you got married at a relatively young age of 25, so that's crazy. Like most of the time, men like that, right? Usually they'll start to sell that more so towards their 30s, so when they turn 30, maybe.
Well, you know what? I knew then, one of the main reasons that I did choose to get married at 25 is I knew it would become more difficult to do it the more successful I got. Like, she was with me at ground zero. You know what I mean? Like, so at that time, like when we were planning our wedding, I was working at Office Depot. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we was broke. We got it out the mud. Like, we barely afforded our wedding. We had to use some of the gift money we got for the wedding to pay off the caterer and stuff like that. So we was broke. So I was like, well, shoot, she loved me now when we ain't got nothing. I'm at my lowest, then I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long I'm gonna do my best to make it work. And if it don't work, I'm cool with her getting 50% because she was shooting in the gym. So that's just kind of, but I knew if I was a 34-year-old making $100K, if I was just single, I would have definitely not just only been smashing her. So it would have been very difficult to choose to get married at that time. So just me trying to be, put myself in the most realistic situation.
You did. Yeah, you really had this like thought out, mapped out and everything.
Well, I think that comes from being an avid chess player, man, thinking long-term and complex moves. I think that's one of the ways that chess has benefited me. But looks like we up against the clock, man. We about to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be getting into tonight's topic, wishful thinking, where we're just having a candid conversation about dating expectations in 2025. You guys are tuned into the Hold Husband podcast. We'll be back in a minute.
Hi, I'm relationship coach and author Terry Duran, and I am pleased to announce that my book, It's Not That Complicated, is finally available as an audiobook. So if you don't like to read or you just don't have time to read a paperback book, this audiobook is perfect for you. You can listen to it while you're in your car, while you're at work, etc. In the book, I break down how husband material men think and operate in regards to sex, love, and relationships, and I provide real quality insight on how husband material men approach dating. The audiobook is available on audible.com and on iTunes. All you have to do is go to one of the websites and search for my name, Terry Duran. Go download your copy today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hold a Husband podcast. Tonight's episode is titled Wishful Thinking. And we're just going to be having a conversation about realistic long-term dating expectations. In 2025, man, it seems like it's the era of divorce. And shoot, most people don't even make it to the point of getting married. But even a lot of the couples that we've seen been together several years, decades, pillars of love per se, we're seeing a lot of these relationships end. And so it made me just kind of come up with the question, like, is it even realistic to have, till death do us part kind of relationship goals these days? What do you think about that?
Man, you know what? So much has changed over the years of how dating works here, right? 20 years ago, social media wasn't as big as it got now. Think about this: 2005, social media. It wasn't really there. I guess it's just the beginning of the MySpace era here. So social media kind of has swayed thinking, because it has an algorithm. They purposely put stuff in front of you to see. So it can, what you take in, you start to take in on that ideology if you're listening to certain stuff, right? So if that stuff is constantly showing up on your timeline and you're listening to enough of it subconsciously, that's in your brain. So I think that's one end of it. But I think, people still can get married and have good relationship and have a healthy, functional marriage. But, I like to say, when you get married, your marriage is going to end in one or two ways: death or divorce. It's one of the
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, majority of them are ending in divorce, and for very kind of shallow reasons. When you have those long-term goals, thinking about having kids together, wanting to have a family infrastructure, wanting to be able to pass something down to your grandkids and your kids, etc. Those visions and those thoughts that we used to have back in the day, they seem to have been replaced with, I don't need that person. Because if you unfortunately on social media, it does allow everybody to have a voice and post their own thoughts and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the response to almost anything that a woman is unhappy about, even if it's temporary, is to leave the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that combination of having monetary incentive to leave a man, find food stamps, child support, all those, spousal support, all these avenues that benefit a woman that leaves a man, and the idea that all these other dudes want me. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these dudes in my DMs want me. All those things kind of warp them into ending relationships for really silly reasons, when it's such an uphill battle for women to get married to a quality dude. Like, man, y'all not in a position to be able to throw away all these dudes for these dumb reasons.
Exactly. And it's just, I hate this because I wasn't happy, right? Because here's the thing with happiness, is a relative term, because it's up to interpretation and opinion of what happiness is to one person, right? So, like, what exactly is it? And like I said, and like I said, 9 times out of 10 we get into the nitty gritty of what was it that didn't make her happy. It's something very trivial, like I said, and you're gonna give up a quality guy for that, and you have a few dudes in your DMs, maybe some guys offering to fly you out somewhere, because I'm sure that happens a lot, right? But you're not looking at the picture. That's short term. And I think a lot of times what women are doing, they're expecting long-term results based on short-term decisions here.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that they expect contradict what women say that they want, or what
Right.
historically women have wanted. Because as a husband, stability, you know what I'm saying, order, infrastructure, and consistency are the things that allow a man to be in a position for decades. All our bills are paid, we safe, we straight, we good. And when obstacles or crises arrive, we're able to remedy them, to some degree. Um, that is boring. That is boring compared to what you see on social media. It's not about how many trips you take. It's not about how many bags you got in your closet. It's not about none of the stuff that y'all see on social media and make your relationship goals. Because for a man, a lot of the things that come with being a man and being a husband is putting up with the things that men dislike about women. The messiness, hair in the sink. The what sound like baby and the kids, and kind of trying to act like
Yeah.
your way is better and his way is wrong. Like all these kind of things that we discuss on social media are things that men in actual households, I guess
I
you could
think,
say, settle with in an effort to
yeah,
make the relationship work. Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as a perfect person, right? Yeah, just like anybody we get with, you just gotta take the good to bad. I know I have flaws of my own, right? There's gonna be good and bad that comes to me. Just though anybody else I deal with, right? There's good and bad. We just gotta know okay, what's the threshold? What are we willing to do, and what we are not willing to deal with when we're in a relationship, right? And especially in a marriage, because you're going to be living, obviously, you're going to be sharing a living space with that person. You're going to see that person every day, right? There's going to be good days and bad days. You know,
Yeah, with me, I guess with the platform that I've been having, I think I started my page in like 2014 or something. So
yeah,
I've been having access to conversations with large numbers of people for a long time. Polls, discussions in the comments. So I've been able to kind of see the mindsets and the responses to different things, and I've been able to provide an authentic perspective the entire time. So I see how women respond to things, when it's coming from a realist perspective, what men have a problem with and why. You know, a lot of the things that prevent men from reaching that level of happiness are the things that we post about.
right.
How women will, when he comes to her to try to resolve a small issue, it gets flipped into his tone or his this and that. You know what I'm saying? Like the same things that happen in my
Yeah.
comment, he's unable to resolve it because of her feelings or her effort to make him the bad guy.
You
That
know,
gets old after a while. Go ahead.
you know what it is? So here's the thing, right? I think some of them are just overtly aware, but like I can see, especially in your comments, I can see some of the responses are toned down just because, a lot of times that situation, it does not serve them or feel like that it benefits them in a lot of cases. So they just choose to, kind of turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to what's being said here.
Yeah, and that reflects what men are going to see in real life. And so the smart men like SD and like we talk about, they monitor those type of things. You talking to a chick and you seen her on Kendra G's page posting something crazy. That lets you know what she really thinks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't know why it's so hard for them to stay consistent, but you could put up a poll that says a man did this, and the women will naturally lead towards blaming the guy. But when you reverse the situation, they'll find a reason that it's not the woman's fault. You know what I mean? Like, so that kind of disparity between just keeping it a buck, calling a spade, you don't really see that among women. And so these
Not
are
at
the
all.
type of things that from a male perspective, I can totally understand why there are so many guys that are like, you know what, I'd rather just have a couple of long-term, I guess you say, situationships or sex buddies or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, versus getting married or doing something that's going to have a permanent, commitment to the woman. Um, and so what is the expectation? Is that a realistic, shorty, you like a woman, y'all vibing, Is it realistic to think this is gonna be a 36-month cycle?
Man, that's sorry, because I think it is. I mean, look, for me, like a situation even if it don't work out for one reason or another, I just keep it amicable, keep it cordial there. Just so let's so. Yeah, I've had situations like that. We might see each other at an event. We might have mutual friends or something. We see each other at an event. Where it's just you just want to keep it cordial to say, hey, how you doing, and kind of go about your business. Whereas there's no animosity towards each other, because in situations like that, it just gets awkward as all hell. So is it realistic? I would say you could. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't really have no experience with it. I've only
Mm.
had one adult relationship, so I ain't never had to deal with the ex and had nobody. You date somebody new when your ex come back in your life or whatnot. Um, but from what I observe in today's dating climate, it's a lot of on and off. You block me, I block. You know what I'm saying? Like we fell out. I got mad at something you said, or you didn't like something I did, and it's like these little small petty reasons to cut somebody off or not talk to them for months. Well, then how can you have the expectation that you're gonna be with somebody forever? You know what I mean? Like how can
Yeah.
that be a realistic expectation if you gonna be somebody in the household where y'all paying bills, y'all raising kids, y'all dealing with the outside world, y'all dealing with unexpected stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like all these are things that regular people have to deal with. And sometimes, you know, especially in what I do, man, I be seeing all kind of conflicts between people that could seriously, you know, strain a relationship.
Man, yeah. So, why were relationships from previous generations able to preserve and survive so many obstacles as opposed to today?
Uh, I think that the necessity that they understood that they needed each other, I think was probably the fundamental reason.
But
Um,
but it's good.
it,
But you don't think like we? So you said that right? You don't think like we might still need each other now in today's day and age?
well, I think no, I don't
Okay,
think that. Well, in today's day and age, we have a lot more convenient. It's a lot easier for a man or a woman to be able to sustain themselves without having a spouse. You know what I'm saying? Like we
gotcha.
have the highest rate of singleness ever. Back in the day, we didn't. We didn't have all these options for childcare, you know what I'm saying, travel, etc. And women didn't have the resources that they have now. So a lot of it was out of necessity. Those women understood that in order for me to have the resources to take care of me and my kids, I'm gonna need to get with a quality man that's gonna be able to provide, and not only be able to provide, have the willingness to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so obviously we hear the stories of how men. We, I'm never gonna advocate that men were always great. You know what I'm saying,
No,
guys? A lot of them took advantage of the fact that they knew women needed them. That's why we had to put laws in place for child support and things of that nature. Because there are a lot of guys that abuse their positioning. That a woman stopped giving them sex or leave the relationship for abuse or whatever reason, and he didn't give her anything. So the courts had to step in and force men to provide and do all those type of things. But I think ultimately the thing that made couple overcome, you know, things that would break up relationships today is both understood how important it was for them to be together. And that I think ultimately, especially in our community, I think that's why the government and the FBI and all that did so much to try to disrupt it.
no question about it. I think because if we're going back to the beginning, right? What was the purpose of marriage, right? It was one to pool resources and also continue a family lineage and legacy. So that was
Yeah.
the origins of where marriage came from, right? That's why people got married. Marriage for love is relatively recent here. Something more so of the modern day era here. So yeah, you're right. I think you said you need each other as opposed to today. I guess you could say yes. One can make the argument not as much, and one can make the argument for better or worse here, right? Because like you said, we have so
Yeah,
much
I mean,
convenience.
because I guess it's the word need, because being
Yeah,
able to maintain a household and pay bills and make sure everybody eat and not got clothes and all that, Men or women can do that. We all make enough money to where you can provide your basic needs. But long term, in order to prosper and have success and foster the best environment for a child to have success, that's not the ideal situation. You know what I'm saying? But that's what most people find themselves in. Because when overall, it just seems like if people, two people are dating for a couple years and there's no kid, it's not likely to lead to marriage. You know what I'm saying? I would bet more towards them finding a reason to break up than getting
Wow.
engaged within the following year or two.
I,
And so the only couples that you see that really kind of stay longer than that are ones where a baby was involved. And that's not, we know
yeah.
that that's not a glue to maintaining a relationship.
It isn't at all. It's not going to keep somebody around. But I can see what, and I think on both sides, right? Like you said, like we said earlier, right? Women have endless options for sex, especially in this day and age, right? They have tons of DMs, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, dating apps, so they have endless options there. Even for the men, let's just say, he is somebody that does have success with women, right? He may not want to settle there, right? Because he's like, hey, I got all these women I deal with at one time. Is it practical for me to give all that up for one person? So I can see where that's at for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess you would think as a single man that's living a bachelor lifestyle, at some point it's going to naturally slow down. He's going to naturally desire get tired of the routine of constantly sleeping with new women or whatnot, and get into the pattern of he has a couple of chicks that he messes with on a regular basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. Uh, Cutting all that off to be with one person, and then, like I said again, I've never had to deal with this, but in an era where you may follow your exes on social media, y'all have mutual friends, and say you see them in comments on other pages, and just all these different things that other generations didn't really have in front of him, that could potentially lead to something, because we all know that communication is all it takes for two people to link. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like
absolutely.
they did
Oh,
it back in the day
Hexaphone.
with letters and pen pals,
Now,
and you know what I'm saying? Like you can
now it's just a text or a phone call away. Most of the time, a text message in this day and age. But let's switching gears here. How come there's been such a shift from family stability to one's individual happiness?
I think that could be directly attributed to social media, and I'd say reality TV.
Mm,
Because before social media took off, that was where they started showing the women they rent out the mansion, and you know what I'm saying, like they in the
yeah.
household. So they started showing them living these kind of upper semi luxury lifestyles. And it convinced all these women that that's what they deserve. If he can't get you with this, then you don't need him. You can do it on your own. That, and then the culture of independent women, like that's always been celebrated as if it's this. I mean, I guess on one side you do want a woman to be able to do certain things for herself,
No, of course.
but the way that the agenda, the anti-male aspect of it, the lack of father figures and fathers in the homes, all those things contributed to the mentality that we have as a culture today.
Right. I mean,
And
I
it's just not conducive to long-term relationship.
I, I want to, piggyback off of that, right? I think, we started to see the shift, probably in the 2000s there, from what we saw, in the 80s and 90s, even, we saw, we had sitcoms where we saw a strong family structure, right? The nuclear family, whether it was Family as Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, things we watched and grew up on. The 2000s where we shifted kind of into reality TV, where, like I said, it was the rented mansion. They had 10 episodes a season here, and you're seeing people live their life, live single lives. So a lot of people, aspired to be that or do that there, right? Up until the 2010s, and then, like I said, social media. Anything you can find anything you're looking for, whether it's on Instagram, especially on Instagram and TikTok. You search, hey, single women living a lavish life. That's all they're going to show up on your timeline. They're going to start pushing this stuff between Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You'll start seeing a bunch of stuff. They'll start selling you products, services.
Yeah, I mean the whole algorithm thing and what's shown in different countries and all that definitely played a big part in it. But you know what I think ultimately what kind of contributed to it, because in the 90s, you know, I was a teenager in the 90s. And so I think we're the first generation where teenage parenting became like the thing. You know what I mean? Like before then, I know back in the gap when girls used to get married at 14 and 15, all that, they would be parents, per se, teenage parents. But they were married and, you know, that was a family structure. The single teenage parents, you know, as deep kind of falls into this category as well. But I think that's the generation where those babies being born in the mid 90s didn't become teenagers until the early 2000s. And so I think what we had then was a lot of parents that were being friends with their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like the 22-year-old mom that got her daughter dressing like her and matching this and that and that. I think that's where a big erosion of the culture took place.
No, you ain't lying about that. I've seen this. I've seen this in real life, in you know, real time, where, you know, you out of club and daughter's out with her mother. You know, her mother's, you know, whatever, 15, 16, 17 years, her senior.
Yeah, you know.
So yeah, this happens.
It is crazy. You know, I had my daughter when I was 30, so I can't even imagine having a child while I'm still in my youth. You know what I'm saying? Like you 30 and your kid is old enough to drive already. You know what I'm saying? Like, so stuff like that be like it's hard to wrap my head around. But that is the reality. You know, you see it now. You see these single moms, they early 40s, they might not look like they in their 40s. They might still look very similar to the daughter. But
yeah, no question.
They dating similar dudes, they dress similarly, you know what I'm saying? Like they dancing to the same type of music. So there's really no distinction. It's like between the if she's 35 and under, they all kind of share the same mentalities and behaviors for the most part.
No question about it here. Let's switch off this. How can relationships prosper if women view husband material men as boring and care more about the fun and the sexual attention from men?
I don't know, man. That's kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of the goal that we have with having these kind of discussions. Happiness, like SD says, is fleeting. You could be happy one minute and you could be mad the next minute. So making life decisions on my happiness, that's not smart. That's not sustainable long term. Now, I don't expect you to just be 100% logical either, you know what I'm saying? But it makes more logical and gives you a much better chance of having that stability if you get a guy that can occasionally go turn up, that goes to the club occasionally. He just has his priorities in order, doing what he got to do to take care of his family and getting back home to make sure his house is good. That should never be boring to me. That, to me, those would be the kind of things and the kind of mentality that I would look for in a man. The problem with that is most husband material guys that are bachelors, they not going to be partying and turning up all the time. So these women are unlikely to actually come into contact with those men in real life.
Is it, man, I remember SD doing a survey talking about, you know, how many different times a woman's emotions change throughout the day, and it was like over 10. I don't remember the number offhand, but it was definitely more than 10 times a day. So, you know, think about that. You make an emotional decision, your emotions change throughout the day, and I think it did one for the men, and you know, men emotions don't really change. It was about less than 5. So you can see where the disparity is with that.
But, and you know, I guess that's just the difference between men and women, but making a decision based off how you feel about it doesn't represent reality. Because again, a lot of the things you do for your kids or your spouse or stuff you spend money on, you don't want to do.
Right.
It's forced, or you do it because it has to be done. You're making sacrifices for them because you love them. And so I don't know what it'll take to get women to get back to that, to actually start appreciating the effort that it takes from
But
a man to provide, even if it's not 100%. You know what I mean? Like to provide 50% plus, whatever that is, 60, 70, it could be depending on y'all salaries. But a guy that is willing to, he has a career, he has a good paying job or whatnot, or is working towards it. He's willing to contribute. You ain't got to beg him to help out around the house. He sees something that needs to be done and does it. You know what I'm saying? Like he sees we out of toilet paper. He gets up and, hey, I'm headed to Walmart. You need it. What else we need? You know what I'm saying? Like, not without you having to write him a list and tell him what he needs to go do. But those are the differences. You know what I'm saying? Like, being a husband mean, I see, I know my wife is they just got out of practice. It's 7:40 already. Hey, would y'all rather have this or this for dinner? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just taking the burden of, I know my family needs to eat. I know that she's busy and doing that. Let me go get some food so that when they get home at 8:20, we can all eat.
Exactly.
Those are the basic, simple type of things that you have to do as a father.
Actually, that's funny. I had actually had a conversation with a woman on a date about that. Just what you just said. Like, hey, look, we, in this day and age, we're probably going to share duties, right? We're sharing a living space. We're probably going to share some duties, right? I understand. Listen, maybe you had a long day at work. You're working. You might have to work some extra hours. You're getting off at 7 o'clock. Would it be realistic for you, for me to expect you to come home, clean, and then cook? No. But if I'm home, I would just already do it in my head. I'm like, okay, you had a long day. I know you're tired. You probably don't want to bother with that stuff. So, let me make sure that this is good. Hey, there's dinner. Dinner's ready. All that good stuff there. Yeah,
it's not that hard.
It's just
the same stuff you would do at your crib if you were a single man.
Exactly.
Single man. But all men ain't the same. There are some men that house is a mess and all that. But I know plenty of dudes, their houses are spick and span. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that. I guess it really just depends on how that was raised, largely. But those type of things are the things that I hope women start to appreciate again, because those type of men will get overlooked because they're not making 200,000 and all the other stuff we said earlier.
I think with the sexual attention and stuff, the fun is, it brings a level of excitement to a woman's life, right? Because I think a lot of women are natural thrill seekers, right? So they want to, they're trying to, I guess, fulfill that end of their life, as opposed to, kind of looking at the big picture of a marriage. Somebody that's, providing a home, a stable home here, stable home, stable family. And some women view that as boring. I don't understand what's boring about that. What would you rather do?
You just said it, lack of excitement. It's not for, we've talked about how cheating and having sex with somebody you're not supposed to be having sex with, all that stuff does create a thrill and a level of excitement. And it's no different than guys chasing new coochie. You know what I'm saying? Like that, that's a thrill, that's an excitement. So it's just how you deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, those doing something new and all that is always going to be exciting. But that in exchange for long-term stability is not a smart decision. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at it objectively. Look like we up against the clock, man. We about to get up out of here. Before we go, man, I want to give another shout out to my man, Brother Soul Productions, for keeping us nice with our background music. I want to remind y'all to continue supporting the podcast through our Cash App and our PayPal. Jay, I appreciate you linking up so we can get this episode knocked out. I look forward to bringing SD back next week. We working through our logistics. We got families and all these kid activities, Absolutely. Man. We hard to keep up with sometimes. But this has been another episode of the How to Husband Podcast, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.